So Pearl Harbor and 9/11 were both inside jobs. All right, it was a lack of communication between a lot of higher supervisors in the government who failed to pass on important information, and that led to lower uh, vigilance against the potential attack, and that led to the destruction. So there's a lot of similarities. There were both successful attacks on each side of the United States, and we could look at it historically as being quite similar to each other in a lot of ways. There's a lot of similarities. Of course, there are differences, but there's things that you can compare and contrast between Pearl Harbor and the World Trade Center. Looking back at it now, of course, we don't know all the details of the World Trade Center because they're still. I think they're suppressing a lot of the information with the Pearl Harbor. A lot of information now is revealed and available for us to learn about, and you can compare the information, and you can almost use a lot of the information that came from the Pearl Harbor uh, and apply it to the World Trade Center, because a lot of similar things seem to have occurred just with the lack of communication and the ignoring of particular leads. Those same things happen between Pearl Harbor and the World Trade Center. So I mean, it's consistent throughout history. There's the awareness that there's an attack or that there's an aggressor out there, but we're not sure when they're going to attack. And as we're reading their messages and decoding the radio signals and stuff, some people get a really clear message that they're about to attack, and then maybe some rivalries are in place within the government that's tracking the enemy, and maybe they don't pay attention to some things more than others. There's a lot to it that is complicated on many different levels between with this spying on military and stuff. So it's interesting to see how the the events play out in similar ways. I mean, about 2,000 people roughly died on either end. 2,000 people died with Pearl Harbor. 2,000 people died with the World Trade Center. Roughly is in that figure, and they were both extremely violent attacks that came from the air. You know, I think some of our most violent attacks come from the air, of course. And there are, two different groups. The Pearl Harbor was the Japanese. The World Trade Center was the Al Qaeda network. And it's just historically we do get attacked on shores. Granted, these attacks were what 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 60 years apart. There's still people, fanatics out there who are trying to do their best to destroy the infrastructure of the U.S. Japan's motivations, there was just a lot of misunderstandings. Well, Al Qaeda's motivations, the Muslims, it's a lot of misunderstanding. A lot of similarities there. Both conspiracies, they're both called conspiracies. But we have the information is pretty much all released for the Pearl Harbor, but it's not for the World Trade Center. Just because maybe they're holding that information about the World Trade Center just so that the enemy doesn't know. the reason they withheld a lot of information about the Pearl Harbor attacks is just because they don't want the Japanese to know the details. Is more of a benefit to withhold all the truth so the enemy wouldn't know.